200 rounds in a minute, or 20 seconds. Something crazy like that. You don't need that.
There we go, caller. I think we got you. Are you on the air?
Do you have me?
Yes, sir. We have you. Who do we have here?
You've got the one that you and Thinbad were calling old, which I did appreciate, but I'm going to get past that before long.
Good evening, sir. How are you, Phil?
I'm doing fine, Mike and Thinbad. How are you all doing?
We're doing just fine, sir, and it's always good to hear from you, and thank you for listening.
Well, of course, this is Phil from Prince George's County, Maryland.
All right.
And I don't usually let people hear my voice, but I thought tonight I'd bless you all with a phone call.
Well, thank you, sir.
Amen.
I want to say to both of you, and yeah, I'm kind of, I guess, from the old school. So a lot of concern always about what we call mass shootings.
Sure.
And my heart goes out to every parent, every family member, every community that's lost a child. But Mike and Thinbad, I got to ask you all this question. We had 80 people killed in D.C. since January. Mm-hmm. Now, they weren't all killed at the same time, but there's still 80 dead children.
That's right.
And I'm not so young anymore, but I was a young drug officer back in the 70s. And nobody was really overly concerned about overdoses, substance abuse, mm-hmm. and all the ills of drug fallout until other folks started using it. Mm-hmm. Now, the relationship I hate to have to make is, Mike, why are we not making all of this noise and all of these, why are we not marching and complaining and going to Capitol Hill over all of these young black children that are dying across America and have been dying across America since we can remember?
Yep.
And one child or 100 children, if you ask the parent of the Columbine children or the parent of the children in downtown D.C. or Baltimore,
sure,
they have the same feelings.
Yeah.
So even listening to you two on the air, indeed, you're not wrong about anything you're saying. But why do we not discuss the death that we face every single day in our communities? Every day. Mm-hmm. The media doesn't make a lot of noise about it. You get 4 seconds about it. We had 2 young people killed in Prince George's County last week. It hit the news real fast and it was gone. These are the kind of things that us old-timers are concerned with. These are the kind of things that Dick Gregory talked about. When do we start making the noise about what's happening in our communities?
Well, Phil, that's an excellent point, and we alluded to that a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't give it the proper due like we should have. But you're absolutely right. I mean, for years, even if you go back in the early 90s, and of course, Phil, you remember, for example, when D.C. was having 300 murders a year.
Yeah.
And Baltimore was having 300. So just within a 35 to 40-mile radius, you lost 600 people. And
that's a lot of people, Mike.
Absolutely.
That's mass murder.
Yes, it is.
I don't care if it happens every other day, every 5 days. The numbers still add up.
Yes, they do.
The same. Again, I would never put one child before another.
That's right.
I would not do that. But I think in America, what is really wrong, we tend to pick and choose when we want to get upset about the same thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should learn to get upset about all of it at the same time. Maybe that's how we bring about a difference. We have to understand we lead to this kind of segregation, if you will, with issues such as this. Well, it's not so bad. We're not going to talk about it. 80 people died over the course of 7 months, but 20 people died here in one day. Mm-hmm. What difference does it really make? We need to look at this collectively.
That's right.
The killing has to stop.
Absolutely.
The killing has become too much of a normal. But listen, I'm not going to take up a lot of airtime, and like I said, I usually sit here and try to mind half of my business. You and Sinbad talk about my age, but I'm going to deal with the two of you all at a better time. And in fact, you tell Sinbad, I'm going to let people know he got a whole lot of money. A bunch of money, okay? Probably could buy him a quarter of an NFL team. But listen, Mike, I just needed, there was too much to text.
Sure.
And so I wanted to take the time out just to give my opinion. Let's think about everybody's children and all
Absolutely.
of the time.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely. And Phil, before you go, I have to put this in the right perspective because, you'll have some people say, well, but this is a guy, and I'm talking about Phil, that is in the community every day. I mean, 366 days a year, 25 hours a day. And, this is a guy that not only will hold law enforcement and all the folks that make the rules and regulations accountable, but he will also hold community members accountable. So when you hear gentlemen like this saying, we need to get on this collectively, folks, you need to get on this collectively. Because this is a guy that has seen it from both perspectives and is not afraid to tell anyone. Doesn't matter whether you are that young man with your pants hanging around your ankles or whether you're that officer that's said something inappropriate. This is a guy that'll call everybody out. But this is also a guy that is not just going to sit on the sidelines and talk about it. This is a guy that's in the community. He's working with the young people. He's working with the police. He's working with the civic leaders. And so when you hear folks with that kind of pedigree talking about we need to look at this collectively, I don't want anyone to misunderstand or say, well, that was insensitive. No, this is a guy that has been in the trenches. This is a guy that's worked from every angle to try to make the community better. And so,
Mike, if I could interrupt,
yes,
and I hope anybody did not take what I said as being insensitive. Yeah, that kind of makes me think about when one of our politicians called a group of people predators, and everybody got upset. Well, there isn't anything wrong. Shit, when you killing people, I'm sorry.
That's right.
When you killing families or burning up houses in Baltimore because they call the police on you because you're selling drugs out front, you're a predator.
Absolutely.
And deplorable when we hear about this. So if anybody is insensitive about what I said, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to say to you, don't be.
That's right.
Don't be. There's nothing I'm saying that's intended to be offensive. I'm telling you, we've got a problem that we all need to be aware of and accept head on. That's where I am with that. And there's too much of even that, Mike, of one group trying to get it right, one group trying to sound better than the other group at how they approach it. You still have dead children. I don't care how you say it.
There you go.
You still have mothers who are standing beside empty beds crying because their children no longer live there.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, but I didn't mean to get off into that.
Sir.
You had a preach on about 3 weeks ago. I didn't mean to try to take his
That's
place.
all right, sir. Preach.
That's all right. Do it.
That's right.
So, look, you going to go back on the air, Mike. I want to hear more about what Sinbad is saying so I can figure out how much money he really has.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
And as always, we appreciate you, Phil, and say hello to everyone in Prince George's.
I will do that, Mike. You take care.
Yes, sir. You too, sir.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Right.
And of course, again, it's always good hearing from Phil and getting his perspective, because I think, when you're talking about a guy that is well respected in the community and that is an elder in the community, and when we look at one of those things and you hear people talking about, it takes a village and takes a village and takes a village. But when you have the elders of the village that are speaking and people are not listening, that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem. And he's absolutely right.
Else.
He's absolutely right. It is time to wake up, and it is time to look at these things collectively, because at the end of the day, Sinbad, when you have 5 guys getting killed at Bentlow and North Avenue, or whether you have 20 people that was shot up in a movie theater, that's still 25 people dead.
Right.
It's still gun violence.
Right.
And it's still, and it has the same impact, because think about it. Oh man, I'm not walking down there after 2:00 in the afternoon. Are you crazy? Just like now you have people saying, well, I don't think I want to go to Walmart anymore because, they shoot people at Walmart now. Same impact. Same impact. Just different locations and different situations.
Yep. And you can't fix what you won't face.
There you go. Ooh,
so they don't want to deal with it. They won't. If you won't deal with it, it won't go away. It's not going to just you're not going to just wait. And it's tough to tackle because there's so many other things that go into it.
That's right.
But Phil is absolutely right. Those are things that happen every day in the Baltimores and the Chicagos.
That's right. I mean,
all of the urban centers.
Because if you look at it real quick, for example, we'll just take one of these cases, and you alluded to it also, Thin Bad, because we have to look at all those factors that are creating the right environment for violence. Whether it's I'm spewing nasty political rhetoric, I'm selling drugs, whatever I'm doing that's creating that environment. As Phil said, we need to nip it all in the bud because we don't want to keep losing people. And you know what? It would have been even more people dead than were not for the great efforts of our medical personnel and our fire and EMS people that are getting people to treatment. But that's another discussion. But if we look, for example, at this one case that was thwarted, this was a guy, and I'm not even going to give his name, but he's a Las Vegas man. He was planning to attack a local synagogue and a bar believed to be popular with the LGBTQ community. And he admitted that he belonged to a neo-Nazi group, and law enforcement officers, they got bomb-making materials, unregistered AR-15s, and the usual cache of things that you really don't need. Right. Now, or you look at that guy that shot into that party in Atlanta last night. Mm-hmm. And so we really need to get to a point where, number one, we're willing to deal realistically with the issues that are causing this. But at the second thing, we also need to look at is this ridiculous notion that people are coming for my guns. I mean, that's stupid. If you're not mentally capable of dealing with conflict, you shouldn't have it because you're a danger not only to yourself, but to hundreds and thousands of other people, period. That's the way it is. And I think Ambezi's joined us. Ambezi, you want to say anything on this?
What's good?
What's up?
Nothing much, guys. I've just been all over the place, just busy, and I'm just trying to... Right now, I'm playing catch up. I'm trying to figure out where we are in this conversation. Where are we at in this conversation, Chief?
Yeah, we are talking about these last couple of plots where people were planning to do mass killings.
Oh, okay.
And we just heard from Phil, who brought it home, that says, we have to look at all these incidents, not just the mass killings, which are very tragic, but we need to look at what's happening on the streets of Vegas, what's happening on the streets of Baltimore, Chicago, and Orlando, and Miami, and
I look at Vegas as an example because how there's just this big mass shooting at the Walmart in El Paso. I don't know if people know, but in Vegas we had our own little Walmart shooting.
We sure did,
and it wasn't as many people. Of course, but it all adds up. It all adds up if people commit things like that, because honestly, I'm not trying to give any ideas, but if I was looking at it from the perspective of somebody who wanted to cause harm and violence, I would go for those smaller attacks because they don't get as much coverage as the bigger ones. We hear about things like El Paso and Dayton and stuff like that because of the numbers. But I think what you're going to start seeing and what you're already seeing, but it's not necessarily covered in the media, are smaller attacks because they know it's not going to be as publicized. And people aren't going to freak out as much about it or really pay attention to what's going on because it's not happening in as big of numbers as these mass shootings. I mean, you can look at the shooting that just happened with with Morehouse and Spelman with their block party. I mean, that's 4 people dead right there, and they're not even covering it in the same way as some of these other incidents that we've been seeing. So I agree. Like, you definitely have to pay attention, especially in today's climate with every